I've been exploring one side I never explored before.
Now that Pedro and Chantel are getting a divorce, we've all been wondering about what exactly caused their relationship to fall apart. And some are convinced that the main reason is that Pedro cheated on Chantel, and you'll never believe the truth about Pedro's alleged mistress. Pedro and Chantel's divorce didn't exactly come as a surprise. I mean, after watching season 4, it was pretty obvious that something was seriously wrong in their relationship, and there's still a lot we don't know about what actually happened. Chantel has accused Pedro of mistreatment and DV, among other things, but many are convinced that Pedro also cheated on her, and it might have all started with his new job. So we know, that Pedro works for a real estate company, and he was so excited to become a real estate agent, and he even talked about how he felt a real calling to business, and now it looks like he might actually has met his alleged mistress through his job too. We all remember Antonella from the show and her weird relationship with Pedro. So Antonella is Pedro's co-worker, and fans are convinced that the two have been having an affair for a while now, and the way Antonella and Pedro were together on the show was just weird, and they just seemed super close, way more than just co-workers. And plus, every time Chantel was around, they both just looked super guilty, like something was definitely going on, especially that one time that Chantel wanted to hang out with Pedro and his co-workers because she wanted to spend more time with her husband, and Antonella looked so guilty then, and there were a bunch of other things. So when Chantel asked Pedro if he was cheating on her, he just kind of, froze up, and he clearly didn't know what to say, which does make me think that he is definitely cheating on her. Otherwise, he would have just said no, right? And it was just such a weird reaction. And let's not forget that Pedro has basically been driving Antonella everywhere, and they've just been spending so much time together, and he doesn't always tell Chantel where he is. And Antonella also put her name on Pedro's keys and left her stuff in his car, which made Chantel super mad, and I can't really blame her. It does seem very suspicious, and I mean, sure, Antonella and Pedro could be just friends, but I just think that the way they've been acting around each other doesn't exactly scream just friends. And I've also seen some theories about how Pedro and Antonella might just be having an emotional affair and not necessarily a physical one, which still isn't great, especially considering that it's not just Pedro who might be having an affair, because it looks like Antonella isn't exactly single either. So from her Instagram, it looks like she might have a boyfriend, and his name is Daniel Hanna, and it seems like they've been together since 2018, so it's not exactly a new relationship either. So if they've been together for 4 years, then they probably are pretty serious, which makes her and Pedro's relationship even worse. And some fans have even theorized that Antonella and Daniel are actually married, and that they even had a baby since filming season 4 of the show. And again, that just makes the possible affair so much worse. And Antonella has actually turned off the comments on her Instagram recently, probably because people kept sending her hate and blaming her for Pedro and Chantel's divorce. And I mean, we all saw it. The two were just so flirty together, and Chantel was clearly uncomfortable with it. And actually, some fans have also noticed that Pedro unfollowed Chantel on Instagram, but guess who he's still following? Yes, Antonella. And he's still liking her pictures and everything. So if they were having an affair, chances are it's still ongoing. And the one thing that's really weird about Pedro and Antonella's relationship, though, is their age difference, because Antonella is actually a lot younger than Pedro. From what I can tell, she only graduated high school in 2020. So that means she's about 20 right now, and Pedro is 30. So there is an entire decade between them, and that's just insane. And why is Pedro possibly having an affair, with someone who only just graduated high school, and he's an adult in his 30s? And I get that there are some things he probably really likes about her. He always said that being able to speak Spanish to his partner was really important to him, and Antonella does speak Spanish. And plus, there is this whole other side to their affair, which is that it's an office affair. And I've seen some people saying that maybe Pedro is so into Antonella because he's into the idea of having a workplace affair. And I know this is his first serious job, and maybe he's not enjoying this side of it, and maybe he's always wanted to, have an office romance. Honestly, I guess it wouldn't really surprise me, especially since some people think Pedro's not actually having an affair with Antonella, but with his boss instead. So Pedro works for Laura DiGaldo, who's actually Antonella's aunt, and there was this one photo of Pedro, Laura, and another one of their co-workers that someone posted on Reddit, and in the photo, Laura and Pedro are standing super close, and it almost looks like they are a couple, and the other co-worker is is just third wheeling. And honestly, Pedro and Laura are literally pressed together. Like, who posed like that with their boss? And it just looks really weird. And plus, Laura and Pedro did seem really close on the show too. And Laura said some things about her and her coworkers, were like family to her. And she was really weird with Chantel. And I mean, she, comforted her. But then she went behind her back and she started talking about how she was glad she wasn't married like Chantel and Pedro. And it just came across really hypocritical and fake. So I still think that Pedro's probably having an affair with Antonella and not Laura, but the way he's been with both of them is just so weird. But then again, with what we've learned about Pedro's family, this shouldn't have come as a surprise at all. It seems kind of odd that no one really cares about commitment and fidelity in that family. And Pedro's mom and his grandma both had kids with married men, and his sister Nicole also dated a married man. And I mean, at least Pedro and Chantel never had kids together, but that makes it slightly better now that they're getting a divorce, because you can imagine if they had a small baby and then they had to deal with all this, their relationship is, pretty messy without all that. But it does make me think about that theory that Antonella and Daniel might have a kid, because let's be honest, if they did have a kid, how sure are we that it's Daniel's? And if Pedro and Antonella are having an affair together, then I guess it could possibly be Pedro's. And honestly, it's probably for the best that Pedro and Chantel are getting a divorce. Their relationship hasn't been working for a while now, and even without the affair, they were just so distant and cold with each other. And I've even seen some people saying that Pedro never really loved Chantel and that he just used her for a means to an end. And that wouldn't really surprise me, because a lot of these 90 Day Fiancé relationships are just a way for people to get a green card. But at the same time, I do think that Pedro and Chantel did have something kind of real. I mean, it's clear that whatever that, was, it's now pretty much over. But I don't think that necessarily means that he never actually loved her. Maybe their relationship failed. Maybe Pedro just wasn't happy with Chantel anymore. Or maybe he just genuinely fell for Antonella. We just don't really know what happened. There's just so much speculation about all the drama, and I really hope that we find out more about Pedro's affair and about his and Chantel's divorce. But guys, what do you guys think? Do you think Pedro's with Antonella, or do you think there might be something going on between him and Laura? Let me know in the comments below. My take is likely Chantel and Pedro were spiraling, and they were just losing it for a long time, and I wouldn't be shocked if he did kind of mess around and hang out a little too much with Antonella. And I definitely think if there isn't an actual physical affair, I definitely think there is an emotional affair, without a doubt, going on. But either way, put in the comments below what you guys think. Like always, if you enjoyed this video, do me a huge favor, that like, follow, share, subscribe button, and y'all better stay tuned for many more videos.